Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
2 years before his production company Spectrevision cast Nicolas Cage and Mandy in Color Out of Space, Elijah Wood teamed up with everyone's favorite actor for a movie that was released exclusively to DirecTV that oddly enough features the final film performance of Jerry Lewis's career. With those weird details in mind, kick back as we break down a 2016 crime thriller black comedy that's, trust me on this one, way more fun than you'd expect. The Trust.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole. Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you pissed blood?
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
When a couple low-level evidence room cops stumble upon a hidden vault, they go all in on what could be the score of a lifetime. But things get messy when they realize they might have bitten off more than they can chew, and their desperation to cash in might just be the last mistake of their lives.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are your stars.
The Trust stars Frodo Baggins himself, Elijah Wood, a guy who still can't spot a sailboat in a magic eye painting, Ethan Suplee, MySpace pop star turned actress Sky Ferreira, my lady Jerry Lewis, and the owner of the undisputed best mustache working in Hollywood today, Academy Award winning actor Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
It was so worth it.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
My lady!
Patrick, hit us with some stats, won't you?
The Trust was released on March 13th, 2016 at South by Southwest. It's a really weird coincidence that Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was released on the exact same weekend at South by Southwest as The Trust, but 6 years later. And then they were both released wide like a month later in April. Mm-hmm. Kind of a weird coincidence. I've had a lot of those weird coincidences. I guess, South by Southwest is a place to release indie movies, so I guess it makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, wow, what a weird coincidence. 2 in a row. Had a budget of estimated, okay? That's all I could find online was estimated $9 million. And it made $321,650.
Ooh, ouch. Well, I'm sure they made more money back at the tables.
Yeah, so this was I guess it was like supposed to be an exclusive for DirecTV.
Really?
So it was released there and then released in theaters. So
okay. So maybe DirecTV financed it or something, and they didn't have to.
Yeah,
that's probably what.
I don't.
That's what I hope happened.
I don't know exactly what happened there, but it seemed like it was a very limited release, as we've seen with these Nick Cage kind of direct-to-video movies. Their budgets and their gross are kind of hard to figure out because, was it actually did it actually do well? But it was just because it went to a platform of some sort, direct, and everybody watched it there, and then didn't go to the theater. Or was it only released in a couple theaters just because they kind of feel like they have to? I don't know. Anyways, 300.
Maybe they wanted that Oscar buzz, so they had to release it in the
maybe.
theater.
I don't know. I don't know. This movie, it was way more enjoyable than I expected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very simple. I wouldn't say it's Oscar worthy or anything like that.
No.
But, but it is it's a fun, quick movie, and it's very simple, straightforward.
It felt like, I don't know, like a long episode of Breaking Bad or something.
Yeah.
Just a cool episode of a good show.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that was the writers are like, what if we took an episode of Breaking Bad and turned it into a movie? Like, you just keep running into problems, and you have to keep figuring your way out of it.
Yeah.
And then,
And then
nothing good
eventually
happens.
not be able to figure it out at the end.
yeah.
Directed by Alex and Ben Brewer. This was their debut feature film, and so far is the only feature film that they've done,
Dang.
which is not great. But I mean, like I said, I think it was a pretty strong debut, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for what it was really, really good for what it was. Like just kind of funny, over dramatic, buddy heist movie.
I love the relationship between Elijah Wood and
Yeah, me too.
Nick Cage, man.
Yeah.
It was such
Hilarious.
great chemistry.
It felt really natural. I can see
Yeah.
why they worked together more after this.
Yeah. I mean, that was, as we said, the reason that Nick Cage ended up in Mandy, and I think Mom and Dad as well. I'm not sure about Mom and Dad if that's Spectrevision, but Elijah Wood's production company was casting for Mandy, and they Elijah Wood went to bat for Nick Cage and really, really wanted him to do it. And then same thing with Color Out of Space. Like, just really loved working with him. And I think on our Mandy episode, we talked about that relationship where it's like Elijah Wood just really wanted to work with Nick Cage again and really loved his approach during this movie. I was watching the behind the scenes, and Nick Cage just like is constantly like adding stuff and like coming up with ideas. And for some directors, I think it's kind of against what they want to do. But I think for young directors and first time directors, that's a godsend, because you have this, genius giving you extra stuff that you basically taking your script and making it way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had done mostly music videos before this. They had worked with Skrillex, Diplo, Justin Bieber.
That's funny. I saw a lot of Biebs in this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Makes
there's
sense
a MySpace pop star, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's probably how they ended up casting her. Was they probably knew her from music,
From the Biebs.
from the Biebs. Yeah, so they got connected. But Benjamin Brewer, one of the two brothers, was actually the lead visual effects artist on Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is getting a ton of buzz now.
Yeah. Good for him, man.
Yeah, for us, this is we're in July. When you see this, it'll be November, December, whatever.
2025.
In 2025. But it's currently out and is kind of getting all of the buzz right now. I feel like it's one of those movies that kind of started as like it was planned to be a small release, and the buzz has created a need for it to go wide. So it's getting a lot more play.
I think it hit like that early home digital release, and then it blew up, and I started seeing it show back up in theaters. So yeah, it's pretty interesting how that shit works. But good for him, man, that he's still working and cranking out some good shit.
I think they'll get another bite at the apple, especially after Benjamin Brewer having such a successful run here with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Hopefully they get another shot, because I really did enjoy this movie. I mean, it's sad that this movie doesn't really have a whole lot of I don't know. It's not in the zeitgeist at all.
I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
I only heard of it because looking through Nick's IMDb, but that's it. Like, no fucking clue what it was about. I was like, oh, weird. That's a weird movie. Is that Elijah Wood with them in the in the photo?
That was the whole
That's
reason
weird.
I picked to do it this season, was because we talked about it a bunch on the Mandy episode, and I think the Color Out of Space episode. I was looking through, I just did kind of a rabbit hole deep dive on a bunch of the other like 2015 to 2020 Nick Cage movies, and they like are just repeats of the same premise over and over and over again.
I was gonna say there's a theme there.
So
the same
this is
movie.
refreshing. This is really nice to have right in here. We're going to have to do those, but I'm hoping I can space them out a little bit.
Let's just rip the Band-Aid and do them all at once.
Let's just do 7 revenge
A whole season
movies
of it.
in a row.
That's where we lose all of our fans. All 10 of you.
All 10 of you. Written by Ben Brewer and Adam Hirsch. And I looked, and this is the final thing on Adam Hirsch's IMDb page. Like, he's still alive, but this is the last thing he did. So he hasn't worked in a major capacity, it doesn't seem, for the last 6 years. So this might have ruined his career a little bit.
Or he became an executive at DirecTV.
He seems like he's I don't know. I just kind of dove into his Instagram and he looks happy. So I don't know. What's going on.
Maybe he realized Hollywood's toxic and he's like,
maybe,
fuck this.
But he had done mostly shorts up to this point. I think this might have been his first feature. So he worked with Ben Brewer. So I don't know where the bulk of the writing went to. But this was shot by Sean Porter, who had also shot the Anton Yelchin movie Green Room from 2015, and also shot Green Book, coincidentally.
He likes the color green.
He loves the color green.
There's a lot of green in this film.
I really wonder if he ever asked Nick Vallelonga what it was like working on Deadfall.
He's like, what? I was never in a movie
what's
called
that
Deadfall.
movie?
What the fuck is that?
He wrote it with Christopher Coppola. Who?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I've blacked out that entire period of my life. By the way, I did also a deep dive on Nick Vallelonga, and it's the guy who was in the pizza shop, the guy who runs the pizza shop, who's in love with the coffee girl. That was Nick Vallelonga in the movie.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah. So, he was in that. He was in that.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
Edited by Lauren Connolly, who has mostly worked on TV shows, but she worked on Children's Hospital. I don't know if you ever watched that at the Adult Swim
Fuck yeah, dude.
show. And then also worked on The Strain, which I feel like had a pretty big following for a minute. I don't know if
it was a cult. That was like a cult classic.
Yeah. I never saw it, but it seemed like it was pretty popular. And then Gaslit, which is a relatively new show. Music by Reza Safania. Reza Safania, who has done the music for P-Valley, which is kind of a popular, kind of divisive show right now. I don't know what platform it is on, but I've heard some things, but seems to be pretty popular.
P-Valley. A few other TV shows, but mostly known for being a songwriter / producer who toured with Destiny's Child, Dr. Dre, and Britney Spears. What?
So this is one of only a few films. I think this might be the only film.
What a weird
really
resume.
Actually enjoyed the music in this movie a lot, too.
I'll talk more about it in the reviews, but I think between the way it was shot, acted, and the music added a lot of depth to the film that I think if it hadn't been there, would have made this movie fucking unwatchable.
Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 63%, 5.5 out of 10 on 46 reviews, so not widely reviewed like some of the movies we've done. Audience score, though, is a 29%, which is
really
surprising to me. Like, I mean, maybe I'm watching this movie in a bubble, but like I really enjoyed it.
I wonder if it was marketed differently, like maybe set up as like an exciting heist movie or something, and then people watching are like, "What the fuck? This is pretty slow." I guess I don't know.
I'll say even based off the description you gave us, Patrick, I still was not expecting this film to play out the way it did. So I could probably see people going in thinking, "Oh, Elijah Wood, Nicolas Cage, it's gonna be wacky and funny," and then it is, but it's not.
Yeah. Which I really appreciated. It was like,
same.
Yeah, it was goofy, but it was also really dark at the same time. I don't know. I liked it.
That could be it too. Like it doesn't have a nice ending. So maybe it disappointed people.
But 29% is really harsh.
I feel like that's harsh,
Metacritic, 58%. I actually did some research finally, 7 episodes into this show. And I went through Metacritic's scoring because we've been trying to figure it out since we started without really, doing a deep dive at any point. So here goes. Metacritic scoring converts each review into a percentage, either mathematically from the mark given or what the site decides subjectively from a quantitative or qualitative review. Before being averaged, the scores are weighted according to the critic's fame, stature, and volume of reviews. So this is like really subjective, this scoring methodology. They gave kind of a range of what these scores mean. So 81 to 100 is universal acclaim. Generally favorable reviews are 61 to 80, which we've had a lot of movies land in that range. Mixed or average reviews are 40 to 60, so that's what we're getting on this movie. Almost generally favorable. And then generally unfavorable is 20 to 39, and overwhelming dislike is 0 to 19. So it's an odd scoring system. I never would have guessed that that's how they did it. It was like, oh, this guy's really famous, so we're going to give him more more sway on the score.
I guess on paper that makes sense. So you're not just like giving everybody with a blog the same amount of footing, but it's like a really weird way to date or digitize reviews, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just seems like it's getting way too into the weeds.
It is, yeah. It's complicated as hell. But okay, I get it. I guess we'll keep doing Metacritic, but I feel like I trust it less now because it's all over the map as far as like the movies that we've done where there's been a movie that's like Rotten Tomatoes and the audience score and IMDb and everything else has said it was great, and then the Metacritic will be like 50, and you're like, why? What? So there was one famous guy who was like, screw this movie, I don't like it.
Yeah, and the other weird thing is they're pulling from the same pool of reviewers that like Rotten Tomatoes is. They're just the way their scoring system works is differently. So I don't know. I guess it's beneficial to show both, I guess, if you are the type of person who wants to view one over the other and knows how they work. So whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
Personally, I prefer the Rotten Tomatoes style because it just tells me the amount of people who approved of it, who liked it.
Yeah.
I think that's why most companies go based off of Rotten Tomato. Like I mean, you see it on everything. Like this is certified fresh stamp. Like Massive Weight was Massive Talent was like that. They had that on their physical copy that was stamped like that. And so it makes sense. I get it now. I get why most companies promote Rotten Tomato versus Metacritic or CinemaScore or some of those other company review sites out there.
It's kind of funny how some movie companies, like, they only go off of that like first week of reviews. So when they're promoting the movie, it's like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and there's like 9 reviews in.
There's like 9 reviews.
Because like Massive Talent, I think, was 100% when they were first advertising it, and then it went down to like 86. So
it went from like 100 to 96 to like 92, and then I was like in the 80s.
Which was the opposite on Pig, where it was like it started at like a 92, and then it went up from there, and it ended up being like 96 or something like that.
I thought he was gonna kill them guys that took his pig away. I can't give it 100.
I was so disappointed. IMDb gave it 5.4 out of 10, which I've said it many times, but I feel like that's usually the right score is IMDb, you know, because it's like 100,000 people who watched it on home video or whatever, and then when they go to IMDb, that's the score that they're giving it. Which I feel like that one is the most. It's kind of the true mark of like the full audience as a whole, how they felt about it.
Yeah.
And then finally, CinemaScore A+ across the board. A++. No, it got no CinemaScore whatsoever.
That'd be fucking hilarious. It's only got two reviews, and it's Nick and Frodo.
I feel like the CinemaScore is like, it has to be like a fully wide release. There's no chance you're getting a CinemaScore if it's a small flick like this. Though I have seen it a couple times now. There was a couple movies where it was like the movie was very, very small, but it got a CinemaScore. So I don't know.
I think that's like back to Nigel's point, like trying to get Oscar.
Yeah, that's true.
Qualifications, like trying to qualify for the Oscars.
But like, it's got to be a death sentence releasing it wide and then
Yeah,
knowing
exactly.
that it's not going to get a big audience. Like,
Yeah.
like
And
who's
somehow
going to
still
see The
wins
Trust?
Best
you know?
yeah. Then it still wins Best Picture. And you're like, how the fuck did that movie win? I've never even heard of it.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
A couple of quick facts here. Jerry Lewis. We have to talk about Jerry Lewis because it's just like, why is he even in the movie?
I don't know.
Here's the reason. Jerry Lewis joined the project at the insistence of Nicolas Cage because the two of them have been friends for years. And, you know, I think they're neighbors, actually, because Nick Cage lives in Las Vegas. Jerry Lewis did live in Las Vegas, and I think they ended up hanging out a lot, probably because Nick Cage was, you know, he's a big fan of that era of film. And I could see Nick Cage looking up to Jerry Lewis, especially like Jerry Lewis had range as an actor. Very divisive person outside of cinema, but the dude had range.
Yeah.
Lewis only has 1 minute of screen time in this movie, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was sad. I think you could kind of tell he was on the tail end of his life in that film. He just seemed...
He seemed
very
out
brittle.
of it, just like the character.
Yes, just like the character, yeah. I don't know if that was intentional, like it was the character supposed to be out of it, or that's just what they got out of Jerry, because
it's so funny when he like opens the door. Jesus Christ!
Jesus Christ.
Jimmy, your friend is here.
It's a fucking hobbit.
It's that guy from the Lord of the Rings.
Where's Gandalf, you fuck?
It really fun. I really felt like as I was watching it, I was like, he's just in this because Nick Cage wanted to work with him, and they probably just brought him down for like one night of shooting and filmed 2 scenes, and that was it.
I would
they
put
used him
money
for
on
45
that,
minutes.
I'll take it.
Which, if they, did they actually film it in Vegas?
Yep.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
they probably just were like, hey, drive on over, we'll film it. Maybe we'll just film it at your house.
I didn't talk about it in the quick facts, but I think this is like the 5th movie that Nick Cage has done in Las Vegas, and he's talked about it a lot because he lives there, you know.
Yeah.
He's talked about how every time out he's had good luck, and I feel this movie didn't do well, but I feel like it was a good movie, so you can kind of say that streak continued. But like leaving Las Vegas, honeymoon in Vegas. Let's see, Con Air was also there. I'm blanking on the other ones, but then The Trust. I think there's like 5 or 6 total movies that he's done in Las Vegas, and he said in the behind the scenes that he's always had great things happen when he shoots in Vegas. So, unfortunately, he hasn't shot there since 2016, but hopefully he'll get another. Maybe we'll do a. Well, we can't do a Leaving Las Vegas sequel.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, but anyways.
I don't know if they could do a Face Off sequel. Anything is
they'll do it
possible.
in Vegas. Yeah, they'll bring back the guy. Anyways. Police uniforms, badges, insignia, and squad cars were created for a non-existent LVPD, actual Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is known as LVMPD or Metro. So, I guess they kind of got away with the fact that every cop in this movie is just a bumbling idiot by doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Las Vegas Police Department or Metro would not be super stoked.
Keep that shit in Reno. Their police force is a joke.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Vegas cops are no joke. They've seen some shit.
Sure, every
CSI
day
Vegas,
is crazy.
real popular for like 10 years.
This is a fun fact. During the filming of the movie, the crew discovered a body in the yard where they were shooting.
Yeah, CSI Vegas.
Which I'm wondering which yard they were talking about.
Oh, dude, there's apartment complex. That apartment complex for sure.
That might have been, yeah.
I'm telling you, that's like in one of the shady parts of Vegas.
Yeah, which the writers actually found that setting the gritty cop story in Las Vegas actually worked really well by taking advantage of the contrast between the glitz of the Las Vegas Strip and the seedier neighborhoods, which there are some really shitty neighborhoods. If you've been to Vegas, if you wander off Strip, there's some some scary places just
drive
right off of
north.
the strip. Yeah.
Drive north from the strip by the stratosphere. It gets a little sketchy.
Yeah.
By Pawn Stars, that fucking pawn shop, dude. That place is in the middle of some really rough areas.
The place that Bobo picks him up in the movie, that gift shop is right next to the stratosphere, like a block or two down from it.
The thing is huge too.
Yeah,
I don't think they did justice. That place is fucking huge.
They when they in the behind the scenes, they talked about like going and finding those old style Vegas shots. They wanted everything to look kind of like it was shot in the 60s or something like that. Kind of give that vibe to it.
I got that feeling because they go to an old hotel casino down in Fremont for that shot where he's going in to like spy on the waiter.
Yeah. This is another funny one. Helicopters filming an Imagine Dragons concert buzzed almost continuously above one Las Vegas location and ruined several of their audio takes. I'm wondering which location that was. But, the little apartment that they were in was supposed to be like fairly close to the strip there. So maybe it was there. I don't know. Oh, that's hilarious.
One of the things I did notice when we were talking about shooting is the opening shot of the drone footage flying through the Ferris wheel was sped up, and it really took me out of it. Like, if you look at the cars, you can see them moving a lot faster than they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get the shot, but then some of the neon signs were like blinking really fast and stuff because you could tell they sped it up.
Yeah.
That's just the chaos of Vegas, baby.
I guess. You could always explain those things away. Like, we wanted to show the frenetic feeling of Vegas. And then the final quick fact is no gambling is shown in this film whatsoever, which is kind of interesting.
Immoral.
A movie completely set in Vegas, and it's a crime story. They did get their allotted subway style shot on the Las Vegas monorail that goes.
I know, I saw that. I was like,
goes
cool.
from like the convention
Hilton
center down
to the convention center. Yeah. I was like, oh, cool. No, if you haven't been to Vegas, you're gonna think, oh man, they got a monorail. Yeah, you just go.
I
to the
was
hotel
thinking
convention center.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this like the Disney shuttle? Like, pretty much.
No,
It
but
just goes to one location.
Some of the hotels do have a tram that runs through them, but you're not going up and down the strip on one tram. You're hotel hopping.
It's not a commuter thing.
Yeah, it's not
usually.
a commuter
No,
thing.
the spot that they filmed in is actually the longest stretch of that without getting to a casino. So, and it's the most like dead area of the whole monorail.
It's just sad underneath. It's just a bunch of empty space.
Let's break this bitch down. Act 1. Let's set some stuff up.
Our story begins the second best way possible. A pair of heaving breasts envelop the screen while a bored guy watches this faceless girl ride his Elijah Wood. What's the best way this movie could have started? I'll give you a hint. It shows up on a Polaroid later in the film. Elijah Wood's character, David Waters, puts Frodo back in the Shire and smokes a joint before heading to his job as a Las Vegas Police Department evidence management agent. He sneaks in through the back door of a crime scene so no one knows he's late, like the sneaky, wicked, tricksy, false hobbits he is.
We have to break like as many times as possible on this show. We got to break out the Gollum impression.
Yeah.
Did that sound okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like it's slipped over the years as I haven't practiced it.
You got to practice that in the mirror.
Yeah, practice
every
10 times
day.
a day.
Nicolas Cage's character Jim Stone seems to be the head of the evidence team, and we see him telling some doofuses how to properly collect evidence from a crime scene before he's alerted that the captain has arrived and wants to see him.
I wasn't sure if he was the head or not.
I don't think he was. I think he was he was a lieutenant, so he was higher ranking than some of the other guys there. But he still had to report to the guy, because he was trying to get him to implement that thing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like middle management of the evidence department.
Which is funny to think that there's all these cops that aren't really cops per se.
It's just part of the bureaucracy.
They don't do any police work at any point. They just do evidence collection and stuff.
A lot of it is that boring routine paperwork and stuff. Working in a warehouse, storing stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a room full of cops collecting evidence didn't notice that there's been a guy hiding in the closet the entire time they've been on the scene, and he escapes by punching a guy named Bert in the face while Waters plays a game of Simon. Outside, Stone gets shut down by the captain when he requests the funds to, solve crimes. And then the captain tells him to set aside a John Deere tractor that they currently have locked up in evidence so he can give it to his son-in-law as a gift. It's a real crack crew we have serving and protecting the city of Las Vegas. I'm sure this shit happens all the time.
Yeah, guaranteed.
First picks of the stuff going up to the police auction.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, do they actually have to bid on it, or do they just, because it seemed like he just kept it.
Like, he was just putting it aside so that nobody else could bid on it, and he was just going to pay $500 or something for it.
Yeah.
We see the guy from the closet escape the house and head down the street as this bumbling team of cops gives chase. Stone and Waters find each other outside and remark about what an absolute tool the captain is, revealing the two to be buddies. An unlikely fellowship, to be sure.
Damn it.
Got to get as many Lord of the Rings jokes in as possible.
Over at the evidence lockup, Stone notices a fancy car on a lift, and a mechanic shows him some cylinders full of cocaine that were stashed in the engine block. He asks who owned the car, which leads Stone to the arrest report that reveals that a drug dealer who was bailed out using $200,000 in cash. And it gets his noodle going. He smells some profit. Back home, Stone shows his dad, inexplicably played by the late, great, depending on who you ask, Jerry Lewis, the arrest report, and Stone leans on his dad's apparent expertise since he may or may not have been a cop himself at some point. It's kind of ambiguous.
Yeah, they didn't really answer it, but it seemed like it. Seemed like he was just
he's watching Matlock.
Columbo.
Seemed like Stone just kind of followed in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah,
and
his dad was like a great cop or detective or something.
Yeah, but now is got dementia or something. I don't know what they're going for there, but it was an interesting kind of bit character.
It's like a dynamic they didn't really flesh out.
Yeah,
in the behind the scenes, they were talking about how his dad was verbally abusive and stuff, and I was like, I didn't get that at all. He says Jesus Christ to Waters,
yeah, except
at one
for
point.
Yelling at him when his friend shows up.
Yeah, it's about the only thing.
It's just old man stuff, though.
Yeah.
Or if you're confused and you have dementia,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, who is this at my door?
It reminded me of the old lady in
fucking
Vampire's
Frodo
Kiss.
Baggins kid.
It reminded me of that lady in Vampire's Kiss, though, and she was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then walks out of the bathroom staring
It's
at the
so
camera.
funny you say that because I actually said that out loud as I was watching the film. What the fuck is
Did they
going
just
on?
film Jerry Lewis and they just had Elijah Wood show up and
Maybe
he's
Jerry
friends
Lewis
with Nick
didn't
Cage,
even know
so
he was on
wasn't even
scene.
acting. Yeah. Jesus Christ, what's Elijah Wood doing here? Stone calls Waters, who is busy smoking weed in a room where I guess the TV used to hang over the couch for some reason. And maybe they rearranged the TV after it was, or they rearranged it after the TV was pawned or stolen or who knows, whatever. It's just
It was
Stone's
weird that it was over the top of the couch.
I didn't even catch that. I just saw Waters' life just sucks.
Yeah, same.
He just lives alone and goes to hookers and
Yeah.
pays her $50.
Escorts.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He pays her at the start. He puts 50 down.
Yeah,
and he picks up 10, and he's like, "Nah, it's worth 50." Clearly an off the books brothel where you can just sort of pay him what you want. I guess. I don't know.
Guess.
Well,
Just he seems so
passed out
bored
on the
and
couch.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I just thought it was like, oh, he's a dirty cop. He's banging prostitutes so he doesn't arrest him. But then I remembered it's Vegas. You can go to brothels. But then I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like a legit brothel. So
Also, you
Yeah, it's
can't go
just
to a
somebody's
brothel
apartment.
within Vegas.
maybe he was outskirts. I don't know.
I think it was the setup that things have kind of gone off the rails for his character a little bit, and
Yeah.
as we see here, that looks like his wife left him, and he has a wedding ring on later on that he's tapping on the fence. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Him
in a
being so
spiral.
bored in that opening scene, it reminded me of like when Dewey Cox is in his dark period and the girl is like bouncing on him and he's just like, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were there. God damn, this is a dark period.
Anyway, Waters steps on a fresh cat turd in the kitchen and opens a box marked Julia before pulling out a shirt, smelling it, and then promptly cleaning up the cat shit with it. So Julia is obviously the cat's name. So he finally answers the phone and heads to meet Stone at the world-famous restaurant lounge, the Pepper Mill, which is a stoner with a Blacklights poster's wet dream.
Or Joe Schumacher's wet dream.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I've actually been to the Pepper Mill a couple times.
Really?
It is a really weird place.
It looks weird.
It's like everything is like set up to react to the black lights. So like all the plants and everything, it's all fake and it's just really strange. It's a really weird place.
It's like a weird place to walk into in Vegas.
Yeah.
Black light everywhere. See some weird shit on the patrons, I bet.
Does that guy have a mustache? Oh, no, he doesn't.
I was going to say, the chick's got blacklight paint on her face. Oh, wait. Stone shows Waters the arrest report while bitching about the horrible service, and Waters decides to bail since the fever dream decor is freaking him out, man. I'm assuming he's still stoned from being at home.
Yeah.
But Stone stops him and shows him a bail receipt. Waters is intrigued by the $200,000 bond, and they agree that the drug dealer has a friend with very deep pockets. Some crack detective work. Meanwhile, the guy is getting a hand job at the end of the bar, which seems to make sense at the Pepper Mill. He's also still eating.
He's a multitasker.
Getting a hand job.
That's one thing I really appreciate about this movie is just the little details that don't matter. That are really, I don't know, just fun little extra things in there.
Yeah.
I love how Cage
They're
plays it out
similar
too,
to-
like a cagey way. You guys getting a hand job.
Yeah, he doesn't even care.
Three-legged dog staring at me over there. This guy's getting a hand job over there.
Whose iguanas are these?
These fucking iguanas off my bed.
What is this dude's cock doing on the bar?
Stone reaches for a lemon slice on Waters' glass and lets you know right away he's secretly a psychopath. He pours Tapatio all over it and then eats it, which definitely feels like a snack Nicolas Cage might actually enjoy in real life. And then once again, we have him doing weird shit with food, eating weird shit in the movie.
Yep.
I wonder if that's just something that he consciously tries to do. Like, I got famous for eating a cockroach in that one movie, so
Yeah. I wonder if this is something he added. Like, I doubt this was in the script.
There's
And this
no
was
way
something,
they
one of
wrote
those
that into
things
the
that he was like, hey, this guy's just to show something's not right with him. Let's have him eat a lemon with hot sauce on it.
I love that. That's kind of. I think that might be part of why people didn't love the movie. Is it's kind of ambiguous whether or not Stone really is a psychopath or if he's just a bumbling idiot and weirdo.
I think it's very clear that
it wasn't ambiguous to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's very clear that he's fucking out of his mind.
But also very good at what he does. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I
And
guess
a bumbling idiot at the same
Yeah.
time.
Well, the most successful ones are able to blend into society.
Yeah.
True.
People.
True.
Stone asks Waters who could get that kind of money together so quickly, and then asks David to tail the drug dealer to find out who might be behind his operation.
He says that he's going to cover his time off. So
Yeah, he said he was taking a vacation in order to do it, which is I think it's so it's not on the books. Like they're not they don't want him. This is obviously them going rogue to track down this thing so they can rob it.
Yeah, but he also that's why I kind of think that he might be in charge. Is he's kind of like, I'll cover your vacation,
Or he's
I'll-
his boss.
Yeah,
so
he
just
does say
signs
that, like,
off
you're
on the
my boss,
PTO.
not only, not because you're my boss, but like fuck you.
Yeah, that's
you're,
right.
you're my friends too. But yeah, so
Yeah.
like, he would be the one in charge of approving PTO and all that shit.
Yeah.
Stone then creepily rubs Waters' shoulders for a second.
I think it's a good idea.
Not talking about doing anything crazy. Look, this guy is, well, you read his sheet. He's a nobody.
Before Waters says, something like this is worth doing if you can keep it quiet and simple, and what you're talking about is neither of those things. To which Stone says,
That sounded so cool. The way you just said that right now, that sounded cool.
I love those little moments. He does it several times throughout the movie. You look so cool right now.
psyching him up.
You're a positive thinker, and I dig you.
Waters tries to tap a Tio-coated lemon slice and nearly throws up before asking Stone if it tastes good to him, and he says, no, it doesn't.
Does this actually taste good to you? No, it doesn't.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, is just foreshadowing to their relationship. So Waters trying out Stone's stuff and not agreeing with it is foreshadowing.
Kind of makes me wonder if Stone did that just to mess with him.
He does like pulling those dad jokes.
Yeah, I was going to say, he likes messing with that.
I guess
part
that
of
is
it.
another thing, too, is it's that part of that, their dynamic, is he just, like, fucks with him. So he's like, I don't do this all the time. I just did it to see if you'd do it.
I love
exactly,
that relationship. And it's my favorite part of this movie. Those
Their
two
chemistry is so
together.
good together.
I really hope they do something else together again.
Yeah, me too, especially after watching this. I want them to do more together.
Yeah.
Me too.
And Nick Cage, like, I feel like this is another time where it's kind of like, I'd never quite seen this character out of Nick Cage before. Hey, he's just so good in this role.
Yeah.
Outside, Stone asks Waters to follow the drug dealer again, and he reluctantly agrees while Stone says, that's the spirit. You are a badass. Which I didn't count as a curse because it's not really a curse, but I was on the fence about it. He doesn't actually say very many curses in this, so
His
I'm not
ass.
counting that one.
That's a...
All right, I'll count it. He's just like everybody's dad. He just seems like somebody, you know, fuck she Willikers.
kind of a Ned Flanders type
Yeah.
character.
We see Waters tailing the drug dealer on the Las Vegas monorail, which is the closest thing to a subway you're going to find in Las Vegas, I guess. And we all know every crime story has to have a subway scene in it. He tails the guy to an apartment building where, after a beat, he comes out dressed like a waiter and is picked up outside. We see Stone and Waters outside a casino where Waters says that the guy works at a restaurant stalking the bar. Stone says someone has him scared because why else would he show up to work on time 5 nights a week rather than go back to dealing drugs? And he decides to head inside to confront him. I just thought that was so funny. Like, this guy showing up to work punctually is suspicious.
Yeah.
In Vegas or something or whatever.
I was kind of confused as to why he would go in and try and confront him in this scene. If we're trying to figure out who is his source, like who's the guy behind him, then this is the opposite of what you would want to do. You wouldn't want to go in there and
spook
raise
him.
suspicion.
Yeah.
Maybe he was gonna, I don't know, try and be sneaky about it, I suppose. I think what the way that they did it actually works out better, the way they ultimately do it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a setup like he's irrational, but Elijah's character is the rational one. So
Yeah.
just kind of show you that contrast between them in a way I don't think was good. I think they could have done a better job because, like you said, it's just kind of like a throwaway scene. You don't really need it, and it kind of makes you question, like, why the fuck would he? I mean, as planned out and methodical as he is the rest of the film, this is kind of out of character for him. Like, why would he just walk in there and start pounding pavement dressed as a cop?
Yeah.
right.
But it's just to get this awesome line read that we get right after that.
Yeah. Waters stops him and says he can't take any more time off work to follow this guy. So Stone tries to stop him by saying,
David, stay positive, dude.
reminded me of Mandy.
Yeah.
Don't be negative.
So good.
Back at work, we see David hanging out with Ethan Suplee, a.k.a. the guy from My Name is Earl or Mallrats, or those inspirational Reddit memes showing that he used to be fat, but he's now ripped.
Don't forget Boy Meets World. He was also in that.
Was he?
And what's that fucking movie? That football movie that everybody
Remember the
loves.
Titans?
Huh?
Remember the Titans?
No. Yeah, I think he was in that one too. He was in a bunch of shit.
Was he in Friday Night Lights?
No, he was too old for that. He was in Varsity Blues.
Varsity
I
Blues.
think he was in
Someone else
Varsity Blues as well. He's like in a bunch of those teen shows and films.
I don't want your life.
He tells Waters that he needs to wait for Treasury to pick up some counterfeit money he confiscated from a crime scene, but David asks him to just wait himself since David has important stuff to do, like tail drug dealers or something, rather than just stay and do his job. The detective, who never seems to get a name, tells him he'll flip him for it. And by flip him for it, he means he'll play Russian roulette with a revolver he keeps in his sock. So he goes first, and he puts the gun to David's head before he reveals that he never put the bullet in the chamber through some fancy sleight of hand trick. David flips David off and then leaves. Everyone in this department just seems like a treasure. Although nobody else reacts to him pulling a gun on David and pointing it at his face.
Yeah, it's just normal.
They're all in on the joke.
Yeah, he's pranked everybody.
Oh, he's doing that shooting me in the head joke again.
Yeah.
That's
the old Russian roulette prank.
He's such a character.
We see Jim on special assignment, which is him actually working at the hotel where the drug dealer also works. Got a job as a server or whatever.
That's like a temp job or something.
Must be nice to get so much time off for important side gigs in this department. Yeah, he is really good. Like, he gets really into doing the job.
I love the scene where he's dancing in the middle of the fucking group.
Setting up for that pig fight club.
Whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
We see a montage of him delivering towels, dropping food on the floor of the kitchen while staring at the drug dealer to be as conspicuous as possible. He just throws it on the floor. Which I'm surprised didn't get him fired. But
yeah,
things happen.
Playing horsey or doing some kind of old-timey boxing for the staff, sitting in a circle in an abandoned room. And we finally see him spot a laundry truck that is apparently off limits to newbies or to people who look like they're obviously undercover cops.
Makes me wonder like how he ended up in that gig, if he used his cop, connections to get him into it, or if he just did a temp agency or something.
Yeah. He probably went through.
They're probably looking for help, and he just went.
Those places are always looking for help.
Yeah.
I just love that he's so committed to his fake job that he I'll get the laundry. And
I know.
To go over, and that's how he finds out the laundry truck is a front.
Senor, no.
He probably enjoys that more than working as a cop.
Yeah, as a cop.
Yeah.
I love when Elisha sits down and he's like, "What's this?" And he opens the envelope.
It's my tips.
This is my tips.
It's more than we make, dude. He tails the truck to a corner store where he sees a drug dealer guy and some other hotel staff stashing something inside. David then heads to Jim's house where Jerry Lewis answers the door, gives David a look up and down before saying,
Jesus Christ. Jimmy, it's your friend.
The fitting final performance from one of the last surviving stars of Hollywood's golden age. The only reason they didn't have Mickey Rooney do it is because he was already dead.
Jesus. Mickey Rooney in this role.
Jim and David head to the corner store where Jim shows David some pictures he had of a homeless guy take with a Polaroid camera. He says, there's one in there with let's just see if you can spot it. Which turns out to be a shot of what we can only assume is Jim's Bilbo and Baggins. I thought it was the homeless guy's dick, but it would be funnier if it was Jim's. Sure. It seems like he would do it to prank him.
Yeah, but I thought it was the homeless guy, but it could go either way because Jim's always pranking him.
Really funny. I love his little huh?
You found it.
Oh. I was wondering if you're going to find that.
How did that get in there?
How you like that? Huh?
It's almost potentially Cage cock, but not at all.
How funny would it be if he actually
if it actually was?
I'll do it. Nobody will know.
Or maybe he just did it ahead of time, took the picture, and then slipped it in there.
Hey, Willem, you got 5 minutes? I need you for something.
Yeah, it is.
I got a guy.
It is impressive, I will say.
Stone says he doesn't think this is just a normal bag drop since nothing ever goes out, and Waters spots a freezer in one of the photos that is chained shut. David heads to a clerk's office where he tries to get information on the store, but the girl at the desk tries to call his department since she's heard nothing about this operation, which prompts him to stop her from picking up the phone. So she gets all sorts of suspicious, but quickly drops it when he offers her $100 immediately. Like, I'll give you $100. Okay.
Could have led with that.
She had to play the game first to see if he was going to choose. He heads to meet Jim, where he shows him that the store recently installed a gigantic new freezer with 36 inches of steel reinforced concrete protecting it. Jim asks David if he's ever broken into a vault before, which neither of them have, so they decide to do some research. Whether they say it like right in front of the other guy that Jim's talking to, like he was getting other records from or something, or the surveillance camera footage from.
Yeah.
Hey, you ever break into a bank vault? Guy's like right there.
Well, what about this one, Jim? Scrub it.
Scrub it.
Didn't even look.
Yeah. I forgot about that. They were just casually erasing footage.
I originally thought that he was like looking at footage from inside that convenience store.
Me too.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, it's that Pop's like sandwich shop that they
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Isn't that place with those great falafels or whatever he
Oh,
says?
no, cheesesteaks.
Cheesesteaks.
Again, this is more like that mundane surveillance, or police work. Like, you have to
Yeah,
look through
exactly. Yeah.
hundreds of hours of surveillance footage.
It's just kind of a funny premise of like these two real low level kind of middle management cops getting in over their head and pulling off this huge score.
Jim calls a drill company in Germany and in some horrible German asks to buy some Jim calls a drill company some Jimens. You got any
Jimens over there?
No, I don't want a muffin. Jim calls a drill company in Germany and in some horrible German asks to buy some diamond-tipped drill bits.
Ja, gut. Ich brauch einen, der so bohrt.
I love that he's using a phrase book, like the phrase book has exactly what he's looking to ask.
Yeah.
It's like 1,000 common phrases in German or something.
How to buy diamond-tipped drills. The German...
Hello.
The German guy says he's being sneaky and is probably a bank robber or something, which is so cool. That scene must have been guest directed by Sion Sono.
Badass.
It's a badass. Oh, so cool.
So cool.
They meet up in a miso silo or something where David has mapped out the grocery store to scale on the ground using white tape, where Jim mentions that there's an apartment above the store, which happens to be directly above the vault. Quick fact, the scene where the apartment floor is marked out with tape inside a space surrounded by high braced walls was shot inside the rooftop facade at the Riviera Hotel. It looked like it was in like a water cooler or something, or a water tower. I couldn't tell.
It's a weird space. I never would have. I've stayed at. Before it was blown up, I stayed at that Riviera Hotel, and like you wouldn't even know that there was a facade there.
Yeah,
because it looks like the outside of the building. And it's funny that it's just like held up by fucking 2x4s.
Like 2x4s.
But that was right before they blew it up. It had already shut down. I think it was like 2015, and they blew it up in 2016. This movie, I guess, was shot in 2015.
Jim asked David to come up with half the money for the drill bits while very cagily putting sunblock on his nose. He said he's refinancing his house to cover his half. So he's really upping the stakes to make or break levels on this crazy little side project they've been cooking up.
It's going to be David him and his dad are going to be homeless if this doesn't work out. Man.
I took it to mean he wasn't actually doing that. Like he was just trying to get David to front all the money.
You think so?
That's what it felt like. It felt like maybe I was just thinking of Matchstick Men too much, where he's like basically he's conning David into this whole thing, so he risks everything as the fall guy.
Yeah, it's kind of like what they're trying to set up is sort of make it feel like a bait and switch, but then isn't actually.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, they
all
had
said
that
and
final
done.
reveal. Like, no, he was being genuine
Yeah.
the whole time. Like, he actually was going to split everything.
Yeah. David says they should go in through the ceiling since messing with a vault door could trigger some fail-safes, making it impossible to open. And David mentions that the only hitch is that there might be a tenant living in the apartment while Nick Cage surveys the diagram as only he can.
What's that?
Oh, that's nothing. A bee flew in my face when I was doing that part.
It's almost like Ace Ventura. Like,
Yeah. I love like
really weird.
he's like holding up his finger with the fucking sunblock on it. I was hoping he would touch Elijah's face with it.
Well, you got some.
give him a little racing stripe.
Melanoma's no joke. Jim says they'll have to deal with the tenant by tying him up or whatever, like it's nothing. And David is pretty worried about how nonchalant Jim seems to be about kidnapping someone. Jim asks David if he's good for the money, and David reluctantly agrees, to which Jim says,
You're a positive thinker, and I respect you. And I fucking dig you.
I love that line. So many good character or like little character moments throughout this movie. I think like this could have been a really boring, nothing story, but those little character moments draw you in and keep you going.
Yeah.
Keep it
like
fun.
I said, if it weren't for the relationship between them and how it was shot and the music, this movie could have been a fucking disaster. It could have been god awful. But everything just came together really well, in my opinion. So.
and they fucking love it. That reminded me of Carruthers. I fucking dig you. Reminded me of him. And they fucking love it.
Act 2. Let's get some motivation up in this thing.
Waters decides to raise the funds he needs for the drilling equipment by tagging along with that Russian roulette loving detective from earlier on a shakedown of a Chinese drug lab of some sort. Also a cupcake shop? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be like a bakery
Yeah.
doing had a drug lab in the back.
Tell you what though, those fucking cupcakes look delicious.
Yeah, they make good stuff there. I mean, both the drugs and
The cupcakes.
the cupcakes.
Can you put the drugs in the cupcakes? This definitely isn't the first time he's done this, since the head drug guy and his girls already have money waiting in a cake box. But Ethan Suplee is upset to find they only have one box full of money when he said to have two. Not one, two. He plays the same Russian roulette trick from earlier, which works like a charm since everyone thinks he's crazy and about to kill the head drug dealer. So one of the girls tracks down some money in a safe and hands it over to David, who's absolutely mortified by the situation, but takes the money nonetheless.
I get the feeling
whole
that
time-
like he used to be a pretty straight and narrow dude,
Yeah.
but then I guess maybe his wife leaving him is what triggered him to kind of go off the deep end.
Yeah. I mean, what, on his list of vices, it's smoking pot and going to
Banging
hookers.
hookers.
It's pretty low based
Yeah.
on what we're seeing everybody else doing in this department.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jim is like a fucking cold-blooded murderer.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, the whole time I feel like as you watch David, it's just he's like, he feels like my life is spiraling. Like, it feels like in his mind, like his life is spiraling, and then like he starts doing these things that he thinks he wants to do, and realizes like, oh, that's not who I am. Like, my life isn't as bad as I thought it was, but it's always too late. He's always like, it's always too late to go back. Like, he's too deep in at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they intentionally start it with him banging a hooker and smoking a joint to show like, oh, this is a bad cop.
This is
And it's like, really though? Like, he's the
Right.
good cop compared to everybody else.
In his mind, he thinks he's a bad cop because he's smoking pot and banging hookers. And then when he actually starts doing bad things, he starts to realize this is not who I am. He's always too deep in the situation to back out.
Yeah. It's just a series of bad decisions on his part.
Yeah.
And kind of aligning himself with this guy who's turns out to be kind of a psycho.
Borrowing money from the psycho cop who loves Russian roulette seems to be a good way to get yourself killed is all I'm saying. But David hands over his share to Stone and their heist is off and running. Stone decides they need some guns for the job, so through some detective work in the archives, he tracks down a guy named Bobo, who I think used to be a waiter for that Italian restaurant in Moonstruck.
I kept hoping it was the guy from Finding Bigfoot.
Oh, man.
Bobo.
Bobo. What's so wrong, Mr. Jim?
His name was Bobo in Moonstruck, right? It was
it was Bobo. Yeah.
I almost wonder if that was intentional.
I don't know. Who knows? It could be. Maybe Nick's like, call him Bobo.
I could see the writers being like, let's give him that name from that fucking waiter at Moonstruck.
Because it really doesn't fit the character.
No. I love he kind of laughs at it almost like he sees G written there.
Yeah. I thought the same thing.
Bad
too.
Lieutenant.
I thought the same thing too when the guy popped out of the closet. I was like, get him. It's G. Bobo picks him up at a gift shop, and Jim yammers on nonstop about what an interesting and fun name Bobo is, while coming off as more of a Ned Flanders than a guy doing a back alley gun deal.
I'm Jim, by the way.
Bobo tells him to shut the fuck up before he shoots him in the head, and Jim looks and says, "So it's far?" in reference to where they're headed to go to do the deal. I love those little moments with this character. It's just so fucking insane.
He looks terrified for a minute, and then he's like, "So it's far."
Just that pause, too.
Yeah, it's great.
They pull up to a gravel quarry or something where Jim produces the money and asks Bobo if the guns are cleaned and if he scraped the serial numbers off. Bobo calls him a corny motherfucker, and he quickly finds out that Jim's good-natured goofiness might all be a ruse because he coldly shoots Bobo in the face with one of the guns he brought to sell him. R.I.P. Bobo. That moment, no shit, I was sitting there like watching it, and when he shot him in the head, I was like, whoa. I actually fucking like sat up and leaned forward. I was like, this is not the movie I thought it was going to be.
I could see it coming. They were telegraphing it. It was like, he's not going to let this guy go.
Yeah.
And the way he shot him reminded me of Kick-Ass when he shoots his daughter.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah.
The way it was filmed, almost exactly the same stance, just closer.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, Jim leaves the gun he shot Bobo with in Bobo's car after wiping it down. Takes the bag of guns Bobo had and pulls his money out of Bobo's dead hand. Sorry, with a name like Bobo, we have to use it as many times as we can, given that it's his one and only scene.
Yeah, it's just like it really is a turn because he's been so like goofy and kind of just like, I don't know what I'm doing, through this whole thing. And then it's kind of like, I think we get the answer, but you also kind of feel like maybe he knew about this entire time, and like he might have had some dealings with whoever owns that vault.
Yeah.
I figured that was the case with him being in charge of evidence and stuff. Like he'd been trying to track this down for a while. That's why he was so on it when he saw the bond posting for 20,000. Like, this could be it, and then see where this goes.
I wondered, like, why did he show it to his dad? Like, maybe he and his dad had been talking about this drug, whatever.
Yeah, I don't
this
know.
cartel that has all of this money just sitting in this vault.
Maybe it's something that maybe it's a case his dad had worked on.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, because if you think about it, cartel, mob, whatever it is in Vegas, that shit runs deep. I mean, years and years and years. So maybe it's just something that his dad had, been trying to track down, and now here's his son got a lead on it. He's picking his brain.
But even his dad is kind of like, what the hell am I looking at here?
Yeah. But then his dad's also senile, so maybe he's just saying, like, literally asking, like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, what is this?
I just still think it would be funny if it was just Jerry Lewis just reacting to what Nick Cage is doing. What the hell is this? Thought we were playing bingo.
Oh, fuck. We see David and Jim preparing equipment for the big heist in Stone's garage while his dad recreates scenes from Dr. Dolittle in the house or something.
I could just see him doing Nutty Professor in the other.
Oh, fuck. Water shows Stone a picture of the guy who lives in the apartment. Says that he barely leaves the place and that he seems to live alone. David asks where Jim stashed the van they plan to use for the heist, and Jim says, I thought you were getting the van. David freaks out and says Jim can't even handle the simplest of things and screams that they're about to risk their lives before accusing Jim of not taking this serious. Things get really intense until Jim pulls out the keys to the van.
Do you have any clue how dangerous it is what we're trying to do? How many things can go wrong? Or are you just unable to see that at any point?
I picked it up and I stashed it by the airport this morning. I'm sorry, David. It was just a little pre-heist joke.
Safe to say, David is a little on edge here. You know?
Jim likes dad jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's just a joke.
I think it's also like he's tested him to see how he reacts to like the plan not going accordingly.
Poorly.
Maybe. You know,
Yeah.
which it's poorly.
Yeah.
So you would think if he was doing
poorly.
that he would call it off.
Yeah.
This guy's fucking a little wound up.
He's just a little on edge. Well, the next day we see David waiting for Jim to arrive in the van, which turns out to be a soccer mom's caravan. David is again disgusted with his partner, but at least it has a cool motorized self-opening side door. Which,
I love that.
if you ask me, is the sweetest thing about those Dodge Caravans.
I love that. Please don't be it. Please don't be it.
Please don't be
it.
Fuck.
It's all those little moments that don't necessarily need to be there. I think that make this movie good.
It just adds to the depth of like the characters, and it's just like grabs a little bit more. Because if I was in his position, I'd be thinking the same thing. Like, really, we're gonna roll out in a fucking caravan?
It's funny because at the end we see the van that eventually, shows up to. I don't want to spoil it, but I guess we're spoiling it anyway. But to kill Elijah Wood's character. The van is like the van that he was probably picturing.
He's expecting. Yeah, like your stereotypical thriller blacked out window van. Yeah,
it's so funny. It's just some fucking caravan.
I just love at the end when he actually like uses the key fob to open the door. Yeah.
His last little tribute to Jim. After he did him dirty.
Yeah. So they pull up behind the store with the vault, and Jim gets super excited about heading in to see if the coast is clear. Then he tells David he looks super cool right now before running towards the store and dropping his walkie-talkie. David again seems pretty worried about picking this goofball as his partner in crime, which, to be fair, he's running like an idiot and just fucking tosses the walkie-talkie on accident.
He's about to walk into what we see is a fucking like apartment with two people in it. They're probably watching out the window as he goofily
Did you just hear
runs towards
something?
there.
Did you just hear somebody running like a buffoon and dropped something?
This guy's dressed all in black.
Yeah.
Obviously a cop too. Like,
yeah,
who else has a mustache like that?
Cop stash. Jim lets David know it's all clear, and David heads inside where he finds Stone picking the lock of the apartment above the store. They don ski masks and bust in, only to find that the guy they thought was alone in the apartment also has a young girl staying with him. They zip tie their hands and lock them in a bedroom, but the guy spits on Jim's jacket while David heads to the van to grab the equipment. Apparently being spit on didn't sit well with him because Jim blasted the guy in the chest while David was away. Oh, fuck. I just loved that scene where he's picking the lock. It was like such a quick cut to Nick's face, and he's got like this goofy look on his face, and
so
the fucking
excited.
picks aren't even like in there properly. I was like, does this guy know what the fuck he's doing? And then they open the door. I was like, oh, I guess he does.
I love that he's just like giddy about doing this thing. Like he's been waiting for something to bring this excitement into his life for years.
Yeah. This is his jam. This is what gets him rock hard. So maybe it was his photo. Maybe that was the photo of it.
He's casing the joint.
He's casing the joint. He's
Wow,
like,
I got
man.
a semi.
Better
Get a picture of this.
I'm gonna show David.
What do you think, man?
Do you think he showed his dad?
What the hell is that? What the hell am I looking at?
Jesus Christ! It's your Jimmy.
It's your Jimmy, Jim. Once again, we get the sense that Jim might be a bit more of a methodical psychopath and less of a bumbling evidence room cop. David is horrified to find that Jim killed the guy, but they head in together and lock the girl to the bed so they can stash the body in a bathtub. They finish bringing all the gear inside and get to work drilling a hole through the floor to the vault below.
It's kind of
when David walks in, he's like, "Can you hear me? Did you hear it?
Did you hear anything?
Did you hear anything?"
But it's
What did you do?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, up to this point, David has seen Jim as this, bumbling buffoon, and he doesn't react as heavily as I kind of wish that he would have in that moment of like, holy fuck, dude, what did you do? You just killed a guy.
Yeah.
Like, we were supposed to be doing this as something kind of, fun little
Right.
heist. It's not supposed to be a murder.
Yeah. So like when they break in, right, they find the chick on the couch, and it's David that finds her, and he turns around, and the guy comes out of the kitchen, and David's pointing the gun at him, and the dude chucks that glass of water at him, right, and David like doesn't know what to do, he like freezes, and then it's Nick that comes in and fucking knocks the guy out. It's like David is so out of his element, and to walk in there and just see that Jim smoked the guy while he was gone. He doesn't even react to it, really. He's like, he's horrified.
He's horrified.
He's not like,
The reaction was fine to me. It was just like,
But he's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like he's kind of numb and
he's overwhelmed.
Yeah, I guess, maybe.
This is
he's
way
just
over his
overwhelmed.
head.
I just wish he would have said, "What the fuck is going on here?"
Like the old woman in
Yeah.
Vampire's Kiss.
Just walks straight into the camera.
Just looks right in the camera.
What the fuck is going on?
Once they have the drill in place, Jim tells David,
Okay, you know the drill.
laughs his ass off. David is not amused, though. He's not digging the dad jokes. Some time passes and we see them taking a break to grab a bite. Jim says the first drill bit is spent and then weirdly blows out his nose like he's trying to blow out a snot rocket since they changed the recipe to the burger he's eating. I didn't really understand that.
I think he's clearing his sinuses so he can taste it better. Really? Just like, that's what I thought. Because you have to smell to taste. So I think he's trying to like.
I guess maybe like
clear
all the
everything
debris coming up from them drilling is
Yeah.
the sinus.
I wondered
like-
about that, but at the same time, it's just so strange.
Yeah.
I think it's just more of like this guy's weird. Like he's got eccentricities.
Yeah, he's
And
yeah, true.
That's one of them.
Yeah, like it just didn't make sense.
I think there's another part when he's sitting in David's car. He like tries to eat like a chip out of his like old ass bag of chips that was on the floor. And David's like, "Stop doing that!" Like he just has
He's
this
like
weird.
grabbing-
He just
grabbing all
eats
that
weird shit. Does all these weird stuff with food.
True. Yeah, it was just weird. It just seems kind of out of place because he ultimately he says it has his approval, and he's like, it's good, I guess. Like, what the fuck?
Just such a like hilarious little moment to have in between, like shooting that guy in the chest, drills for a minute, and then they stop to eat, and it's just like this quiet, long beat of him like blowing out his nose,
Yeah.
to eat this burger.
I love the look on David's face too as he's eating. He's just like shell shocked. What the fuck is going on? What did I get myself into?
Maybe I didn't know Jim as well as I thought I did.
Yeah, he's learning real quick. Jim's not the guy he thought he was. Jim says they're about halfway through the concrete separating them from the vault, but a security guard of some sort pulls up outside to interrupt the fun. David calmly goes outside and explains to Mr. X from the X-Files that they're on a stakeout while Jim aims a gun at the guy's head through the window.
This guy's like, I gotta say, the most devoted security guard I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Patrolling an apartment.
Yeah.
Usually they don't do shit. They just drive through it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
Can
a
have people
business
stealing
area.
catalytic converters out of a car that
Yeah, exactly.
the security car will just drive on by.
Yeah.
You guys need a hand?
It's funny though that I didn't know that probably most people don't recognize him from this anymore. But that's what I always recognize him from.
Mr. X.
Mr.
I knew
X.
he looked familiar.
It's like Mulder would always put the X in the window, and then he'd get all this information from the guy who plays the security guard here.
That's funny. Yeah, he looked
X-Files.
familiar. I couldn't place him though.
They have the titular role in X-Files. I was like, hey, Mulder, I got your X-Files.
The guard begins to head out, but suddenly the girl they locked up breaks free, so Jim spins around and lifts his gun to kill her. Just before he can shoot her in the face, David comes back inside and pushes her to the ground, but not before she sees Jim's face. Whee! Quite the predicament.
It's in hindsight, if he would have killed her, everything would have been fine. Well, I mean, David still would have reacted the way that he reacts to finding all this stuff, which ultimately pushes their trust between each other.
But things might have gone fine for David.
Yeah, David might have been fine. That's true.
David locks her in the bathroom to a sink, and he and Jim get back to work. Suddenly, the drill dies thanks to a broken belt, and David asks, "Are we fucked?" To which Jim assures him they're not fucked. Then they try to hand drill the rest of the way, but that goes about as well as you'd think. Turns out you can't just fucking hand crank that shit.
Through concrete and steel.
Yeah. Then they try to sledgehammer the bit through, but neither of them feels comfortable holding the bit. Jim eventually volunteers to hold it, but asks David,
You haven't had a lot of coffee today, have you? JK, go for it.
just another one of those fucking, I'm guessing, improv lines.
I love that line so much. JK.
And then cheers his partner on while he hits the bit by saying,
Two more, give it the goods.
He's spotting him at the gym.
Eventually Jim says,
I have an idea. It's kind of wacky.
It's so good, man. All of those, every line read of Nick Cage in this entire scene is just amazing.
This is one of my favorite
go
scenes in
for
the
it.
entire movie.
I love the look he gives him too when he's like, JK. It's kind of wacky.
His wacky idea is to improvise a little explosive using a pill bottle and some gunpowder, since they only have about a quarter of an inch to go to get to the vault. He puts the bottle in the hole and sends an electrical current through it while David waits outside. David sees the explosion happen from the alley, then re-enters the apartment to find it filled with smoke and Stone seemingly dead on the floor. He tries to see if Jim is breathing, and Jim says,
Did you hear it?
and then laughs his ass off.
It's like right above his face. Did you hear that?
I love that it's just like there's smoke alarms going off. Like they didn't even deactivate the smoke alarm before they tried to set an explosion off in the apartment.
It's just like, this will be hilarious when he comes back in.
Once they confirm that the explosive worked, David heads downstairs to saw the chain and padlock off the freezer door, protecting the vault. Jim sticks a camera through the hole upstairs into the vault like he's given it a colonoscopy to see the mechanism on the back side of the door. So while David turns the knob on the front of the door, he can see when the tumbler mechanism catches from upstairs in order to figure out the combination.
I thought it was like they were going in through the door and like he was looking inside of the door, but it was just the back side of the door. Because the hole is like slightly, it's like maybe a foot away from the actual door.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought they were drilling into the door.
I was like, how would they be that precise? Especially if they blow it up, like they're going to really fuck up. I mean, wouldn't that trigger the fail saves?
Yeah.
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 One of my big Coppola questions on this whole thing is like, no cameras watching millions of dollars, no seismic sensors, no nothing.
Yeah.
No security alarm on the fucking door leading into the grocery store. But who in their right mind would be dumb enough to rip off whoever these people are?
I guess. And you would think it would be protected by somebody other than the guy in the apartment.
With unloaded weapons. He only has one loaded gun.
Yeah, as we find out. Convenient.
Convenient.
He doesn't even use it. He uses a glass of water.
Jim says the vault door has 2 fail-safes, so if they miss a number, the door won't open. David slowly rotates the knob until Jim sees it catch, and they quickly figure out the first 2 numbers, which David writes in chalk on the door. Jim has some issues seeing the tumbler clearly and isn't positive if the safe caught on the final number or not, but decides to have David open the door, which if he's wrong, they're screwed. The door, of course, opens, though, since otherwise we wouldn't have a third act. And David just walks right in.
It's good thing they didn't have Geraldo Rivera opening the vault up.
Well, when they first get in there, it is a Geraldo moment. There's nothing in here. Oh my God, what do we do?
Act 3, The Resolution.
David tells Jim he needs to come see what's inside of this vault, which turns out to be kind of a big, white, empty room. But Jim asks him on the walkie-talkie, what's inside? Some steaks or something? He thinks it's actually might potentially be a freezer. I love that because he's genuinely like nervous that they just did this whole thing for nothing.
Yeah.
They find an all-white room with little lockbox-type doors on all sides of it. Kind of felt like a bank vault of some sort. Inside each of the doors are little felt trays filled with diamonds. Jim is overjoyed, but David seems super freaked out. David suggests that they go clean up the mess that they made upstairs before packing up the vault. And they load everything up, but David hears the girl in the bathroom asking for help. She says she has a little boy at home and tells David she needs to call his father, and he idiotically obliges her. This was the big mistake of everything.
The one thing I do appreciate about this scene, though, is that it's believable because in that scene where they're dumping her shit on the bed, her wallet falls out and there's a picture of a young kid. So it's like a nice little like nod back to that moment. Okay, well, like you would think like, okay, maybe she's telling the truth, or you have no reason to believe she's not telling the truth.
She also says, "Can you help me out?" though when she's talking to the person.
Yeah,
and that makes me think like, you know, she was trying to set up that she was trying to score drugs, because that's sort of what she says later on is like, I have a problem, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here, and I just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know. He tells her to write the number on his hand with a pen, and he calls it using his own phone. What a dummy. I mean, you know, we're trying to set up that David is actually a good guy, you know, and he genuinely is like, I don't want this girl to get killed. And then when Stone basically says that they're going to kill the girl up north, that's when he's like, all right, well, Stone's off the rails. David heads out to finish cleaning up, but Jim spots a false wall, which has a huge cache of guns behind it. Jim asks the girl about the guns, but she plays stupid while David finds a silver gun in an ottoman. I was really hoping that it was going to be gold. I thought it was gold the first time I watched it. It was like, yeah, it's a Castor Troy callback.
Yeah, when it was in there, it looked gold, but I think it was just reflecting the chair or whatever the fuck it was in. Yeah.
It's disappointing. And when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, it's silver.
It's the man with the golden gun.
David says, we can't do this since they don't know who they're dealing with or where they are right now. And Jim says, we're in the heart of the American dream. Which is, you know, well, we'll get to it. David says they need to leave everything right where it is and bail immediately, while Jim says,
It is a little crazy, but that doesn't mean you have to walk away empty-handed, David.
so he's like, yeah, he genuinely stumbled into this fucking thing. But I do think that David is right, that they would have tracked them down and killed them no matter where they went.
Yeah.
They would have found them.
You don't steal that type of shit without somebody showing up on your doorstep someday.
And you have to live in fear the rest of your life.
Yeah. You're not exactly criminal masterminds. You're going to get found.
Yeah. You're going to figure it out pretty quickly, I think. I mean, just the security guard, could recognize him and then lead him back to both of those cops. So. And then they'll be like, oh, well, they just disappeared, both of them.
Exactly, right. You work for the police.
And he bought the plane tickets in their names.
In their name, right.
So.
I know. That's the first thing I thought, too. Is like, you guys, he's right. You're going to get fucking murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. David says they'll be lucky to walk out of this situation alive, and then notices that Jim brought enough bags for everything in the vault. Sure seems like Jim knew exactly what was in the vault. See, this is like the thing back and forth is like, did he know, did he not know? As he seems to know, and he's very methodical, and like he shoots two people in very like cold-blooded manner. So maybe he did. Which is exactly the same thought that David has, and he accuses him of using him as a patsy and asks Jim how long he's had his eye on this stash. Jim swears up and down that he didn't know about it and only brought the extra bags since he's a man who believes in the power of positive thinking. He then surprises David by telling him that he has 2 tickets to paradise. Bags for leaving tomorrow. Says he has 2 tickets to the Bahamas and says he has one with David's name on it so they can celebrate on the beach together, drinking Mai Tais or whatever in the Bahamas. David doesn't believe him and again accuses Jim of planning to pin this job on him, to which Jim says, I'd have to be a genius to plan something like that. Which is, it's you're not really sure up until the very end whether or not he actually is kind of a mad genius planning to pin this all on David.
Yeah.
Jim again heads to pack up the diamonds, but David tells him that he's not touching any of it. Jim then asks,
Oh my God. What does it take to get someone to split millions of dollars with you?
Jim heads to the vault only to find that David has closed it and wiped the combination off the door. Here comes the best scene of the whole movie. Jim reacts as you'd expect. He calmly asks him to open it after David says they'll hunt them down. Then he asks him again nicely, reassuring David that everything will be okay. David says, you're going to get us killed, man. And Jim asks him nicely one more time to open the vault. And when he refuses, he grabs David, throws him up against the vault door, and screams, Open it! Open it! Jim. Open it! 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 Yeah, that's 10 times in case you were wondering. 10 times right in his face.
I was hoping he was going to start screaming, Key! Key!
It harkened back to the how to get burned moment. I feel like it's just like
doesn't he start doing different versions of it too, like the different tones and accents?
That was pretty much the same the whole way through. Open it! Open it! Like this is where he's really like, okay, we gotta fucking get this shit and get out of here because we're gonna get killed if we stay here.
It's fucking daytime right now.
Yeah, I'll save that for later.
And he's really, you can tell that he's upset that David doesn't trust him anymore. Yeah, and he wants to fucking get the diamonds and go. Like that's what they've been. This is what the whole thing has led up to. Is like, let's just get this and get out of here. And I do think that there's truth to him, like, refinancing his house and all that kind of stuff. Like this is his last ditch, this is the only thing he has left. It's like, we're going to do this or nothing. I don't have any money to cover the costs of everything that we put into this. So, he doesn't necessarily have to take everything, but I think even just the fact that they blew a hole in the roof of the vault would cause them to come and kill them.
Yeah. Because now they know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like they tracked him down. They found the place. They killed the guy.
Yeah.
You know, they know where their
also
stash
killing
is.
the guy.
Yeah, you crossed the line.
Mm-hmm.
And a wise man once said, "Never cross the line."
Jim.
Whatever. Jim.
Major faux pas. He throws David to the ground and puts his gun to David's head, which makes David finally relent and open the vault. You can tell he was like really conflicted as to whether or not to shoot David in that moment. You know? Which, you know, if he would have, might have had a different ending again. Jim loads the diamonds and money. We see there is some money in there. We could just kind of see it in the background, but we only see diamonds in the first scene. But when David is standing there just dumbfounded, we see him taking some money out of one of the compartments. Back upstairs, Jim tells David to wait with the girl while he finishes loading the van, and they'll get rid of the girl up north since she saw his face. Of course, this whole time, David thinks Jim is planning to either bail on him, so he's probably expecting him to just drive off in the van, and leave with the money while he takes the fall, or to kill him and the girl at the same time up north, which, you know, both are pretty plausible at this point. I think he sees David as kind of a, you know,
a loose end
at this point. So he might have actually still been planning, though he does come back in and apologize.
Yeah,
right.
But also, we have to assume that David thinks that Jim is a psycho after shooting that first guy in the chest and is planning to kill this innocent girl who knows nothing about the vault downstairs in David's mind. That she has no idea, but obviously she does. Once Jim leaves, David fishes that silver gun out of the ottoman and waits for Jim to return while he hides in the bathroom with the girl who's zip-tied to the sink. When Jim returns, David shoots him in the neck as Jim tries to apologize for the whole "open it" fiasco.
Yeah. Hey, David, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you can kind of tell, I think they were trying to paint that David was like, oh, fuck, he was trying to apologize.
Yeah.
Whoops. Jim makes his way to the kitchen where he looks at the blood on his hand from his neck wound in disbelief. And then he hides away, and David comes to finish the job. But Jim shoots at him through the wall while David returns fire. But obviously, Jim was shot in the melee. David makes his way to the kitchen to find his former partner dead on the floor. And in his hands, he finds 2 tickets to the Bahamas. So it turns out he really did stumble upon this heist and actually wanted to escape with David after all. Or maybe he was just using that to get him to trust him again, and then he would have killed him. Who knows? It's really ambiguous throughout this.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a family together.
I love you. I want you to come in my
He does think
Shire.
He does send him a dick pic.
He does.
Gave him a dick pic. He says he's super cool all the time.
Rubs his shoulders.
Gives him a shoulder rub.
He's got a rapist mustache.
Come into my hobbit hole.
Funny that he's been his eye on him for years.
He's been grooming him. That's
planned
nice. I saw you playing that Simon game.
Adds a layer to this movie.
David sulks his way back to the vault and puts every last item back where they found it before breaking down and sobbing. He grabs the girl and puts her in the minivan, and he tells her that if she does exactly as he says, she'll live as they drive to the desert, and just wants to forget this whole night ever happened. Suddenly, we see that a van is tailing them, and when the van pulls up in front of him, he sees that the number on the back of it is the same that the girl wrote on his hand. Oh, that was a cool detail. Mm-hmm. Another truck pulls up next to him. The back door of the van in front of him flies open, and before David can show them that he's a cop, he's shot in the face and dies instantly.
Well, that's like his... that'll
like,
stop him.
What do you think that's going to do?
Yeah.
That's not going to help you in this situation.
Okay, we have to kill you then.
Yeah.
The girl pops up and pushes his lifeless body out of the seat, and she stops the van before it can be hit by a semi. Next, we see all of the gear used in the heist being filed away at the same evidence warehouse David and Jim worked at, and thus ends the story of two guys who could have been millionaires if they had simply just trusted each other. The end. Yeah.
I want to know her story, dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool not knowing what any of the we don't know who the people
what
behind
this
the vault
organization
are.
is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We have no idea where that money came from. We have no idea what any of this stuff is. But I do think that they would have been killed.
Gems.
Oh, 100%. They weren't going to make it out of that alive.
Yeah. David was right the whole time.
Yeah.
And so was Jim in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You open this? Discovered the mother lode, David. Well, don't look so freaked out. I mean, listen, I know you're probably worried that the people who would stash a collection this incredible would more than likely kill us if they knew that we ever even set foot in here, but what if I told you that we could build our very own collection for next to nothing on lovedagainmedia.com? They have a massive vault to choose from, starting at $4 for DVDs and $5 for Blu-rays. Plus, you get free shipping on orders over $25. And since you, like me, are a person who believes in the power of positive thinking, I'll let you in on a little secret. You can get an extra 15% off at checkout by entering the coupon code ONECAGE. And that works on any movies, not just Nicolas Cage films, since I know you're a big fan of hidden gems. We should go back up and clean.
David! Stay positive, dude!
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
We sort of answered this, but what was with the scene with Elijah Wood and the prostitute at the beginning? Is it just to show that he's missing his wife?
I think it was that, and also to, like I said, to set up the false expectation that you're watching the bad cop in the movie. Like,
yeah,
you know, and then he ends up not really being the bad cop. He's just a guy kind of in a depressing state in his life.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is relatively not anything near what everybody else in his department seems to be in on.
He's sort of hitting rock bottom. And,
yeah.
And I think maybe, you know, there's potential that he was sort of on a suicidal path, and that's why he was like, well, fuck it, let's just do this. But
that's a good point. Yeah. Maybe he was planning on killing himself. So he's whatever.
But then he realizes, wait, my life wasn't that bad.
Right.
Doesn't he even say at one point, like, maybe I should get my shit together?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, yeah.
Isn't it like outside of the peppermill when they're talking?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he says, man, maybe I should just get my shit together. Maybe I should.
We sort of answered this one, but do you think Stone's dad was a cop?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Former detective. Mm-hmm. Maybe, you know,
I feel like he'd been a sounding board for a lot of Stone's ideas, and like for whatever reason Stone never got to the level of detective. He was stuck in the evidence department or whatever.
Maybe he never lived up to his dad's expectations. And
yeah, well, I think they hint that his potential was better than it was. Like, he's a pretty good detective. He figures all this shit out. You know, and he's trying to come to the department with better ideas on how to maximize the, you know, the evidence collection and run it better and solve crimes better. And they just blow him off. So
yeah.
And the loser that Ethan Suplee plays is a detective. Like, you gotta imagine he's seen that guy. Then like, really, I'm in this position. He's in that position,
right?
We sort of answered this one too, but do you think Stone actually knew anything about the vault ahead of time, or was he actually the bumbling doofus he seemed to be and really just like stumbled upon this through, you know, finding those little chain of clues?
That's a good question. I don't know.
See, I thought he really wasn't bumbling. I thought that was an act.
Yeah.
To get people to underestimate him because that works to his favor in a lot of stuff.
Or he just is having fun with David.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, there are numerous things he does that are just like, what? Like the whole plan is like half cocked anyway. You know, it seems like it's well thought out, but it's really not. Like, they show up and they don't even know there's an extra woman there. And like, what do they do with her? And he shoots the guy. And, and then, you know, she sees his face and they don't have a backup belt for their drill bit. So like, if anything went wrong, their whole plan would be shot, which happens multiple times. So
yeah. He can think on his feet really well, though.
Because I mean, you gotta think about it too. Like, didn't they say that the vault had only been installed 3 months prior or something like that?
Yeah.
So I think they really did stumble upon this vault, and he was expecting there to be money or drugs inside legitimately, but not to the, you know, he was not expected to find diamonds and all that other shit.
Yeah. Millions and millions. We asked this as we went, but wouldn't the vault have some security cameras or sensors of some kind holding millions of dollars worth of diamonds and money?
Or anything, like any security other than
the rent-a-cop outside.
Strung out biker who lives above it with some chick.
Yeah.
You know, like that seems like that's their only security, but they let two guys bungle in and then, you know, sit there over the course of a night trying to drill into this thing and nobody else shows up, doesn't trigger any sort of alarms. Like,
they're there for a long time.
They're parked right in front of the building the whole time.
It rouses the security guard's interest. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe they didn't, you know, I could see it from a point of view. You don't think anybody would be stupid enough to try to rip you off. So why even, and it's in such an obscure place. Like who in a million years is going to find this? It's just, you know, not thinking through every
it could have been if they had tighter security, it would arouse more suspicion, and they were going for
that too.
Under the radar. I feel like who's going to rob a random
grocery
convenience store out in some
whatever
ghetto ass place? And even if they did, they're not going to be able to get through, you know, the padlocked freezer and then through the vault door that they have there. So why bother?
Yeah, and what was it, 3 feet of concrete and steel.
So like any petty thief
concrete.
is not going to be able to get into it and do anything with it, or even know that there's something there.
Yeah,
you know. So maybe that's why they were so successful. They were able to run this whole operation so underground that nobody noticed it.
Yeah. Plus, if I took it as the explosion had popped the panel open, but if it hadn't, if you walked in there, you're just looking at what appears to be a white tiled room. So I don't know.
Although I thought that was kind of weird. Like, why have all of this stuff? Like, I expected each one of those boxes to be locked. You know, like a bank deposit. You know, instead they're just unlocked and they're all just in these like little closet cubbies.
There also seems to be a lot of people in on this score. You know, all those people at the hotel, and they're, you know, they're probably desperate for money at times, all of those people, but maybe they get paid off by this organization. And
or they're just afraid that if they were to try to attempt this, they would be killed.
I'm
they
sure.
probably know what's going on. I mean, the people, the other employees knew what was up when they stopped Jim from going to the truck. Like, don't mess with that. You know, like, you know, so they knew what was up with it. And maybe their tips was their payoff. You know, like they're not actually making that much in tips. They're getting paid by the organization.
Yeah, maybe that's what
hundreds
was
of
going
dollars
on
a
with
day.
Jim, and that's how he got paid so much in tips. Was
Yeah. Basically, like, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
We'll pay you off a decent amount of money, and you don't have to worry about it. And that keeps anybody from getting greedy.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would, but do you think the explosion would have triggered the failsafe on the vault door?
I don't think it was strong enough.
Yeah, I don't think it was
like
strong
it was
enough.
enough to punch through that little quarter inch they had left, but not enough to shake the door because it was a huge vault door.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, that would probably be a pretty bad design flaw because, like, if there was an earthquake or something,
Yeah,
you can't
you
open the vault.
want to make sure that it had to be significant.
Yeah. And my final question is, what was with him blowing his nose out because of the burger? It was so strange.
yeah, I think it was just cleared his
but-
sinuses to taste better, you know?
I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, I could see the
Nigel's
dust
thinking.
from the concrite.
Yeah.
Because they're drilling into that stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was strange.
My other one was just, I think we also talked about it. It's hypothetical. Like, why is Jerry Lewis in this movie? I guess like his character doesn't seem to serve any purpose aside from maybe hinting that Jim has this relationship with his dad, but like they never flesh it out or follow up on it. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe they couldn't film more with him or something, and they just dropped it or cut it out.
They kind of hinted in the behind the scenes that there was more to the relationship between his dad and Jim. So yeah, maybe it was like Jerry Lewis was being Jerry Lewis and was like, okay, well, we need to get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
We got him for a day. That's good enough.
It's like-
And if
it's like-
nothing else, that is probably something that probably helped at least draw a few eyeballs to this movie of like, this is the very last performance from Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a strange way to go out. I was
Yeah.
in 2 scenes in that movie and I said, Jesus Christ, Jimmy, your friend is here. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel better about it knowing that he was friends with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe it was just something I needed somebody to play it. And,
I feel like it was a bigger scene
to do it.
or a bigger character on paper, but for whatever
Yeah.
reason, I think they had to cut it down. Which, you know, I feel like this movie flows really well.
Yeah.
Very short, very straightforward movie.
I guess I'm more hypothetical, but do you think Stone really had a change of heart at the end, or was he always planning to run away with David, or did something change that like he was planning to kill David and then, you know, had that as a backup plan or something? Like, was he actually trying to apologize when he came in and David killed him? It feels like the movie makes it seem like he did, but
I think he
the way he was so ready to just shoot him to get him to open the door, like, and how we've seen him just kill people in cold blood makes me wonder if he was just planning to do away with him.
I think he had
anyway.
a genuine connection with David and actually really liked him.
I agree, yeah.
And I think he was trying to make amends when he came back in. But at the same time, I could see him just being like, well, obviously you're not in this as much as I am at the end, you know, and then maybe killing him and the girl at the same time. So he was definitely planning on killing that girl.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My only question that we haven't gone over is, if this is like a fucking functioning convenience store or grocery store, how did nobody fucking show up early in the morning? like you gotta like get in there and prep shit.
Yeah.
I mean they're in there at daylight.
I guess that was my other question. Like, how fucking long were they doing this heist? Like 12 hours, 13 hours,
Yeah,
something
I mean,
where
it was-
nobody shows up?
it was
They said
daytime
something
or
about it
daylight.
being closed on, I think it was
Oh,
Sunday.
that's right. They said Sundays, right?
So maybe they came in on Saturday night.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that because it was kind of a throwaway line.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
yeah, so
maybe
they
that's
just
what
closed
happened.
one day of the week, and I think you're right. I think it was Sunday.
I would be willing to bet, though, that there's somebody who comes in, you know, maybe the owner does the books on
somebody
Sunday
with
or something.
Share
I
comes
thought,
in.
or at least somebody would drive by and see what's going on.
check it
Maybe
out.
because they have the guy living above it as their security guy. But like, if nobody's
Maybe.
heard from him, you know, it just feels like there should be tighter security with this.
I would assume, maybe, you know, whoever is running the convenience store is definitely in on what's going on in that vault. So, probably that guy upstairs. would have let them know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for the trackers.
Nigel, do you want to hit us with the old trusty curse counter?
Yeah, so let me adjust my windows here. This one was actually very light on curses. Like I said, I didn't even count it at first, but there is one use of ass when he says badass. So I guess we'll count that. There's one use of God because he's like, oh my God, at some point when David's giving him a hard time about something. I can't remember the context of it. And then he says fuck once when he says, and I fucking dig you. And that's it. 3 curses.
Wow.
So this is one of the lighter movies. This puts it ahead of Pig, which had 2. And Bringing Out the Dead also had 2. But that's it, aside from the movies that had 0, like National Treasure and Mandy. Yeah. So I was surprised, which I think obviously was intentional. Seems like Nick Cage doesn't have any problem swearing with characters, but maybe they wanted this guy to seem clean and wholesome.
It's funny because he seems to curse a lot when he's improving, and I get the sense that a lot of the lines were improv in this one.
Yeah, but maybe he was improving this character, and he thought that Jim wouldn't swear, so he, didn't do it that often. But yeah, so that brings our total to 501.
Ooh, 500. Monumental.
Mm-hmm. 25 movies in, 500 curses.
Yeah. Nice and even. Runtime. This was 93 minutes, which puts it on the low end. Tied with Dog Eat Dog. A little bit of Pig, and then Willy's Wonderland is like 88 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Still surprised at how short that is. And then Dark, if you count that, 76, but I don't really count that.
They chopped the last half of that movie, or the last part of that movie.
Yeah, they just completely took out the last scene. Nudity, we had the 2 breasts at the beginning, which brings us up to 26. And then I have to count the penis on the Polaroid.
Yeah.
So that's 2 now. We've had more penises than vaginas on this show so far.
Story of our life.
Yeah, that's how it always goes. There's also double the amount of man ass than there are female asses, which is surprising up to this point. State and country tracker, we were in Nevada again, so that's the second time if you count Willy's Wonderland, which was obviously shot in Georgia but was supposed to be in Nevada according to the synopsis, though they never say it in the movie that it's in Nevada. And then Germany, technically, but I'm not going to count it because Nick Cage didn't go to Germany.
It's das cool, though.
Budget versus gross. This is estimated. It isn't official anywhere, but it's estimated that it was a $9 million budget. And it only made $321,650. Again, I think it was probably just some very small theater chain put it out. Maybe it was at like the ArcLight in LA or something. I have no idea. I wish that was a little bit easier to find so that we could actually look at that stuff. But a lot of times that stuff is just completely, I can't find it anywhere. Sometimes it's like readily available, and most of the time it's not anywhere to be found. Mm-hmm. So that brings our grand total up to $675.5 million budget with a $1.412 billion gross. As far as our top grossing films, this is not anywhere near. This is the 6th lowest grossing film that we've done so far, which is pretty crazy.
Damn.
And it's only made $321,000, which is a huge loss. Mm-hmm. But it's still 6th lowest, not even close to the lowest, which is Grand Isle.
I just have to imagine that they made up the difference with DirecTV.
Yeah.
For the exclusivity of it.
Yeah, I feel like it's not fair to really critique it based off of that because it was for DirecTV, so they weren't planning on releasing it.
I don't know if it was completely intended to be for DirecTV. Maybe that's the only one who bought it, because that's how it goes. It's like the production company puts it together, but then somebody has to buy it to distribute it.
Yeah,
and the rights were bought by DirecTV, who apparently had I think it was 2 weeks before it came out anywhere else. before it was like available to rent or stream or anything else. It was just on DirecTV. So, but I looked and it seemed like it was mostly international, not domestic on the money that it pulled in. So who knows? Maybe that's a requirement, is like, you know, if it's going to come out in another country and it's not available direct in that country, it has to come out in a theater of some sort. I have no idea. But that seems to be a common thing that we've seen so far. Ratings, this did get a rating, so surprisingly got a rating. 11 R-rated movies now. This was an R-rated, which is by far the most, which makes sense. Which leads us over to the kill tracker.
All right. He got some kills in this one. Dose. That's 2 in English for you folks out there. So he killed 2 people. Our boy Bobo. And then a named apartment guy. Which brings us up to 71 total kills. And then we have a death. You know, it slowed down like we talked about in the past.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. I think Face Off was the last movie.
I think Joe.
Watched.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
Spoilers for Joe.
Yeah, because Joe came after Face Off. Yeah, sorry.
That's why I added the little spoilers thing at the beginnings, because we always end up spoiling what movies he died in.
Yeah. So that's right. Yeah, so it's been since Joe. But so 1 death in this, which brings us to 9 overall. And it would have been wicked awesome if he had been resurrected in this one, but he wasn't. So
kind of felt like he was going to play dead. Yeah.
Dude, I thought so too. I thought that was going to be a nice callback to earlier.
He did that on purpose to make us think he was going to do it.
I think maybe that was the intention, was to fake us out in that scene.
It definitely heightens the tension. Like,
yes,
he's going to pop up and shoot David.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
You hear that?
Where does this masterpiece fall? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
The $1 million question. Vince, where does The Trust from 2016 rate on your Cageometer?
All right. So we talked about it a little bit before. I really didn't know what to expect with this movie. I thought it was going to go one way, and it went a different way, which I enjoyed. I like getting caught off guard by films like that. And I think, like I said before, and I'll talk a little bit more about it now, but I think the editing, the directing, the writing, the acting, and the music all came together really well for me personally, and made this film so much tighter than I thought it was going to be. And I really think if they hadn't been hitting on all levels, this movie would have been just another awful fucking film to watch. But I think they did such a great job at building the relationship between the two, and the just chemistry between Nick and Elijah is fucking incredible. It really carries you through the movie.
Yeah.
And then just like between the music and the angles, there, like the tension in some of the scenes is very palpable, which I really appreciated, especially like the whole, like I go back to the scene of them trying to unlock the safe, and just that, like, I felt the tension of them. One mistake fucks this whole thing up, and they just got through a fuck up and were able to get to this point. So I really appreciated that. I thought that added a lot of value to the film, which could have been missed easily if it hadn't been done properly. So with all that being said, I got to give this movie 7. I thought it was a real kind of middle of the road movie. Like, for me, it wasn't super great, but it wasn't fucking awful like I thought it was going to be. I thought it was fun, enjoyable, funny, like a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And then for Cage, I'll give him a 7 too. Obviously not his best performance, but I thought he nailed the things that he probably wanted the character to do and be very well. Did a really good job coming off as a fucking psychopath when he starts murking people. Really funny. Like, man, we talk about this all the time. Like, he does not get enough credit for his comedic chops. Just really funny. Just how he delivered some of the lines, some of the dad jokes. I thought he did such a great job, but then also had that intensity. But at times he pulled me out of the film because it's Nick Cage doing Nick Cage things, so I can't give him better than a 7. But I definitely don't think it's one of the better performances we've seen from him. Maybe I'm just shell shocked from Prisoners. I
feel like
a little more generous, but
the Cage moments really fit the character, though. That's the great thing.
I do too. but they still pull me out of the film because like it's Cage being cagey. But then again, like maybe that's just because I'm hyper aware of that stuff because of the show. Like sometimes I see a moment, I'm like, oh, that's a cagey moment, right? So that's why I'm giving him a 7. I thought he did such a great job at making this character feel just like so like not feel, but he did such a good job of like playing that line of is he double crossing David or is he not? And I'll give him a 7. I thought he did a pretty good job in this film.
Going back to that tension, like that moment where he pretends to not have picked up the minivan.
Oh yeah,
like that one was. They did a really good job of building that tension. Like David's about ready to just bail completely. Like this is over. We're not doing this. And he's like, it's just a pre-heist joke. All right, Nigel, where does this rate on your Cageometer?
I was pleasantly surprised by this movie as well. I didn't, aside from the blurb that you gave at the end of last episode, I didn't look up this movie at all. I didn't want to look at trailers or anything. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what to expect for it. I kind of felt that it was going to be bad just because I hadn't heard anything about it. And was like, oh, Nick Cage and Elijah Wood. I mean, it just seems like his recent, that string of movies he did was always like Nick Cage and some other minor star, like it was some crappy movie. But I think this movie was great for what they wanted to do. It was 90 minutes. It still felt a little bit long to me for some reason. I don't know if it's because the pacing was intentionally slowed or not, but it still felt like it kind of dragged a little bit. Like I felt like it was like a 2-hour movie for me personally. I don't know why that is, but it still felt a little long despite being as short as it was. But I think it's because the story is pretty simple and it, they still kind of stretched it a little bit for it. But aside from that, I'll echo what Vince said with the music was great. The editing was great. The chemistry between Cage and Elijah Wood was fantastic. I really liked their relationship that they had. The story was simple, but got the job done. Like I said, there's a couple of things that didn't work for me. Like, why the fuck were they allowed to just fuck around this thing for 13 hours or whatever, and nobody showed up to stop them? But there was enough of moments of tension that they'd throw or wrenches getting thrown into the plan to keep you invested in what was going on. So, with all that in mind, I give it a 7 out of 10 as well. It's a good movie. It's not like a must watch for me. I don't think I'd recommend people have to see this one, like movies like Mandy or Pig or Joe or one of those ones where I'm like, if you like Nick Cage, you got to see this one. I would say if you do like Nick Cage, you should see this one because it's a great performance by him. And it would probably surprise you, but I don't think it's one that, everybody needs to run out and see for it. It's just a nice, fun little heist movie with some unexpected comedy and story beats and some good characters. Yeah. For Nick Cage himself, I really enjoyed his performance in this. I think he did really walk that line of like this goofy, goofball guy and like cold-blooded psycho who's got everything figured out and you can never quite tell which one he is. And I think that's in his performance that really helps that drive that point home. Like you feel like, this guy's pretty fun and be kind of fun to hang out with, but also he's a little weird and he might kill you, but you never really know where that's going to be. And you don't really know what his true nature is, which is like a true psychopath a lot of times. You can't tell that they're that messed up. I think that was all down to his performance. He's got that charisma, he's got that comedy chops, but also he can be a villain and be menacing. So he really sold all aspects of it for me. I think his chemistry with Elijah Wood was great. It feels like they really had a lot of fun working together, and that comes across in their performance and helps the character. Like it seems like when he says he really likes David, you get the sense that Jim really does like hanging out with David and fucking with him and being his partner in crime.
Which is funny, like from the moment they first interact, you get that sense of like, these dudes really seem to enjoy each other's company, or at least, maybe it's more Jim just kind of sees, David as like a son and like goofing on him and
which I always like given the three of us met at work and became friends from it. It's fun seeing these two guys who you felt like naturally became friends while working together and dealing with their stupid Evans job, you know, and all the shit that goes along with it. So for me, it was actually an 8 out of 10 performance from him. Give him a little higher than a 7.
Nice.
Kind of along the same lines. It's not like this is a must-see performance by Nick Cage. But if you enjoy Nick Cage, you'd probably be pleasantly surprised with this.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy this one for sure.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's another unique performance. You know, it's not. I haven't seen him be this type of character in anything else. You know? So it's nice to see that even in a little smaller project like this, he can deliver a unique performance that most people probably aren't going to see.
Yeah. He always brings something you're not expecting, I feel like. And,
he gives it his all most of the time.
Yeah, always. I feel like that's, you know, one reason I wanted to do this show in the first place was like there were so many movies coming out of starring Nick Cage. There was like 6 or 7 movies a year there for a while. And I was like, I really want an excuse to sit down and watch all of those movies. And that's where we're at. I mean, who would have thought that this movie was going to be this fun and enjoyable? Yeah. Because it made nothing. It has a 29% on the audience score.
It's got no buzz. Yeah. The critical response to it was pretty bad.
Pretty tepid,
It's even the audience was sort of like, whatever. It's 50% or whatever, 5.6 or whatever it was on the IMDb.
Tore it apart.
And then, so, you know, it's kind of one of those movies that's probably just not going to become a cult classic. It's not going to be, you know, it's not so bad it's good. It's just going to exist and probably be forgotten about. You know?
Sort of like Matchstick Men, where it'll just kind of be forgotten, you know. Although not quite on the same scale as Matchstick Men, but yeah. I'll jump into mine. I'll echo a lot of the same things that you guys said. It's just, I was very surprised by this movie. I expected this to be god awful, and all I had seen was the open it bit. It was like on one of those Cagiest compilations, you know, and from that I was like, oh god, this is going to be another piece of crap. But like, God, it was shot really well. The direction was amazing. I thought it didn't drag for me in my mind. I was genuinely enjoying it from the moment it started till the very end. Like I really got pulled along in this movie, and I love the chemistry between Cage and Elijah Wood. I really hope that they work together again on something because they seem to get along so well. I want Spectrevision and Saturn Films to like combine forces and start making some movies. You know, maybe not even starring the two of them, just those two production companies coming together.
See what they can do.
It would be great. Which they have. You know, we saw Mandy and we saw Color Out of Space, and both movies were great. And this was so like unexpected, and I loved how small it was. I think maybe it's just refreshing, based on some of the movies that we've done on this show that are just like nonstop, like 3,000 scenes. Like this is just a slow burn, very straightforward. Like one thing leads to the next, and there's not a ton of like jumping to other things that are happening. It's just like, okay, well this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. I kind of love that about this movie. And I was kept wondering the entire time of like, is Cage actually a psychopath? I didn't really know what was going to happen at the end. And that's such a like rare treat in films, especially, you know, I've been watching movies nonstop my entire life. So to see something new and see something different, or at least to have something where you're not expecting what happens to happen, is really refreshing. So I gave it a 7 as well. I feel like, you know, compared to the critics and compared to the audience and compared to IMDb, we're giving it pretty high marks. So maybe we're missing something that other people
I don't know. It's
saw.
really surprising. Maybe there just wasn't. How many reviews did it have?
It's only like 50 something. Or like 40.
Maybe that's why. Who knows?
Yeah. But that was on Rotten Tomatoes, which gave it a, what was it, 63 or something?
60 something, yeah.
Yes, 63%, so 5.5 out of 10. And then the IMDb was 5.4. So everybody kind of gave it like a 5 or a 6, which I guess I see. It's a very like, there's nothing particularly memorable about the movie. Aside from those goofy little moments, I think those are my favorite moments. Is just those jokes that really aren't propelling the story along, but just give you more connection between Elijah Wood and Nicolas Cage. They're so good.
I think a lot of it might be, you know, if you're reviewing it, do you recommend it to somebody else? And like, even like I said, probably not. Like, you don't need to tell somebody to go watch it unless they're a fan of Nicolas Cage, and then they'd probably enjoy it. But other than that, it's probably not a must-see movie, in which case it might be a, 5 out of 10 for a lot of them, just middle of the road. But
it's not a Pig. It's not a Mandy. It's not something that's like, this is
solid.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah,
this is
just
this is a good example of telling a very simple story in a really great way. And I love those kinds of movies personally. Like, I love when the story is simple, but they add so much depth to the characters that you're really invested. And I feel like Mandy is that. It's like, there's so many little character moments that made it what it was. It was a very simple story. Joe was a very simple, or Pig was a very simple story, but the character depth brings you in, and the visuals and the music and just the whole presentation is great. And I felt like the presentation on this was great. These guys were first-time directors. They'd never done a film before.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And Cage said in the behind the scenes that, at a certain point in his career, and I think we have talked about it, but like, I think it was after Ghost Rider 2, he wanted to start working with young directors and fresh people to kind of reinterpret him as a person. Like, there had been the years of films that people have had an impression of him, but new writers, new directors, new people coming out see him in a different light and kind of get something different out of him. And I feel like that's what we got here. It was like, this is another unique Cage performance that personally I loved. I actually gave it an 8 as well, because I thought he kept me hooked throughout. Elijah Wood was kind of the straight man reacting to this crazy Ned Flanders psychopath. But Cage kept me engaged throughout the whole thing. Like, he was funny, he was charismatic, he was hard to predict. You didn't know what he was going to do from one scene to the next. I just felt like his performance was kind of amazing. And again, it was so unexpected. Like, I did not expect to love him in this, especially after only seeing that open it scene. And that open it thing, that can pull you out for sure. That's definitely a Cage moment. But that was, if you were in that situation and he was like, I'm trying to fucking get out of here and we're going to die if we don't leave. And we've been working towards this. I fucking refinanced my house.
It's like you said, like, how hard is it to get someone to split $1 million with you, or split millions of dollars? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
I just want you to
open the damn
trust
door.
me. Hurry up. Let's open this door and get out of here.
But you don't know if you can trust him. And I think even the audience, like, you don't know if you can trust him.
Even after he's dead, you don't know if he had ill intent in mind.
Right.
Like,
you don't even know if he's dead.
Yeah.
That's true. Maybe that's what happens.
You don't even know if he's dead. Like, you could be psyching him out again to shoot him.
Exactly.
Maybe that's how this ends, is like, because we never see Stone's personal effects in the evidence thing.
It's all he's not dead. Yeah,
so
he gets
maybe
out.
he actually got up and
he
then
stopped his heart so that when David checks his pulse, he doesn't feel anything.
He used that technique they use in Step Brothers.
Maybe that's, he actually waited until David left, got up, went back in, stole all the stuff, and then left. That'd be amazing.
That'd be awesome.
I want to see that sequel.
I mean, even the ambiguity there, like, he gets shot in the neck, but like, you can't see, did he get grazed or did he actually get shot in the neck? Like, you're left kind of wondering, and I think they did a really good job with it.
Yeah. Very unexpected movie. I would recommend it to other people. It's not what I was expecting, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun.
It's fucking fun.
I fucking love Nick Cage, man.
So good. He needs to do more comedy. So
every time out, man, there's something I'm not expecting.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
Something like this is worth doing if you can keep it quiet and simple, okay? And what you're talking about here would be neither of those things, I can promise you.
Wow, that sounded so cool. The way you just said that right now, that sounded cool.
I truly have nothing better to do, and I despise my job.
It's the spirit! You are a badass! You're a positive thinker, and I respect you. And I fucking dig you.
Fuck you, Jim. This is some bullshit right here.
David, stay positive, dude.
Hallo, kann ich Ihnen helfen?
Ja, hallo. Einen Moment.
Bobo's interesting.
Especially for someone who sells guns.
It's fun, you know? It's Bobo, banana and a bit, Bobo. I'm Jim, by the way.
You take these?
There's one in there that's, let's just see if you can spot it.
What is this?
Huh? You haven't had a lot of coffee today, have you? JK, go for it. Two more, give it the goods.
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. Next up, we'll be watching the movie that started it all. The cornerstone that all of Nicolas Cage's career was built upon. Nick's starring debut and the first time he was ever billed as Nicolas Cage, which I just found out that he almost went with Blue. That was almost his last name. He almost went with Nicholas Blue.
Thank God he didn't. One blue at a time doesn't have the same ring.
One blow at a time. Prior to that, he'd only been in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and that after-school special, The Best of Times, that he did with Crispin Glover. And he was Nicolas Coppola in both of those films.
Yeah.
So this was the first time he was billed as Nicolas Cage. The 1983 romantic teen comedy Valley Girl. Nick stars as a punk kid from Hollywood who falls in love with a good girl from the Valley, so no one thinks they should be together. A story as old as time and the premise for roughly 75% of all films made in the 80s, I think.
I was going to say, it's a story as old as the 80s.
They said that it is loosely based on Romeo and Juliet.
Oh my God.
I'm like, yeah, I guess. Okay.
Every love story.
Every love story, yeah.
is loosely based off of Romeo.
Yeah. It's like them saying that Texas Chainsaw Massacre was based on a true story because Ed Gein wore somebody's face as a mask at one point.
Right.
I thought that was also based off of Romeo and Juliet.
Make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Open it! 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 Open it!
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.
The first bit spent.
How far are we? What's up?
They changed the recipe. No, it has my approval. We're about halfway through.